Miami blew out the Pelicans on Sunday night and have won 5 of their last 6 games. Norm Powell was Miami's best player, and Wes, it goes without saying, but he should be an all-star this season, right?
It's not even a question at this point. This guy's got to be an all-star.
You are Locked On Heat, your daily Miami Heat podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, welcome to Locked On Heat, your daily podcast on the Miami Heat, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network. Whether you're tuning in on YouTube or on your favorite podcast app, thanks for making Locked On Heat your first listen every day. Join the Cookie Gang, become an everydayer. That means subscribing, tuning in every day, Monday through Friday, and signing up for the Everydayer Club with the link in the show notes. I'm Wes Goldberg, host of Locked On NBA Daily and Real GM Radio. I'm here with David Ramil. Both of us are credentialed Heat media members who cover this team every day. Got a ton to get to today. We've got credit cookies in the oven, listener questions to get to, recording this on Sunday night after the Heat's 125-106 win over the Pelicans. Norm Powell was great again, especially at the start of this game, making his first 4 3-pointers right out of the gate. The Pelicans, David, not a very good team, but they're competitive, and they did hang in this game. This game was close for most of the first half, but my takeaway from this one, other than the Norm Powell stuff, is that the Heat did what better teams should do in these situations. They didn't overreact to the Pelicans making a bunch of shots. They made some key defensive adjustments like they needed to, and then they pulled away, ended up getting the easy win. What was your takeaway?
Yeah, that was basically it too. The defense continues to be a strong point during Miami's recent stretch. Obviously, they struggle a little bit. I looked at the first half, and they gave up a bunch of points to the Pelicans, even though they had scored well over 70. And I thought, you know what, this is going to be a strange game. And then in the third quarter, they wound up holding the Pelicans to 15 points. And that was really where they just kind of said, you know what, let's quit playing with our food a little bit. We know that we're a better team here. And they did exactly what they were supposed to do. So to your point, I agree. This is what a good team is supposed to do against a worse team. The Pelicans can be competitive, but they're not, let's say, always so engaged. And, they had some good performances from Trey Murphy. The third in particular, he was fantastic. And aside from that, though, Miami did what they were supposed to do. They played tough defense, made the right adjustments, as you said, and got a monster performance from Norm to really help them pull away with a win.
Yeah, I thought Derek Queen in particular kind of threw Miami's defense for a loop in the first half. They didn't really know quite what to do with his spacing with him out there. And I think New Orleans took advantage with some backdoor cuts, and then Zion just doing some Zion things, barreling his way to the basket. They got, I think, some lucky bounces also in that first half, but I don't want to take anything away from the Pelicans. Like I said, they lose a bunch of games, but they're pretty competitive, right? Like, this is also a team that has won 5 straight games this season. So they're not a walkover, despite what their record looks like necessarily. But to me, the difference in this game was the defense, right? I think that the Heat did a better job. Well, first of all, the points off turnovers really stands out when you look at the box score. 31 points off of turnovers, a lot of that coming in the second half. But I do think, moreover, I thought Miami just did a much better job contesting shots near the rim. New Orleans got 14 points in the paint in the second half after they scored 32 points in the paint in the first half. To me, that was the biggest difference.
Yeah. They shot well, all things considered. They did shoot 47% overall, 40% from 3. But they didn't get to the line a lot. And I think they were settling for a lot of perimeter shots, despite having a guy like Williamson there and everybody else in that cast. They just didn't get to the line very much. And I think Miami made the right adjustments. They were able to kind of step into certain shots and really contest pretty well and do the small things. It wasn't like an overwhelming game. I think they were kind of playing down to their competition, especially in the first half, but they figured it out eventually. And you know what? A win's a win, especially on the second night of a back-to-back too. Having lost an unfortunate game on Saturday against the Minnesota Timberwolves, this could have been a tough one. They were without Jaime Jaquez, so they didn't get one of their leading producers off the bench, and they were still able to withstand all that. And they played their style of basketball. So put up 102 shots. Like we talk about their defense, offensively, they did a really good job as well. I think they stayed to their what their strengths and what they have gotten to for most of the season. Put up 44 3-point shots. This is as ridiculous an offense as we've ever seen from the Miami Heat. Like,
they couldn't miss from 3. They could have shot 63 pointers in this game, and I think it would have been fine. They couldn't miss for large stretches of this game. To your point, though, New Orleans did shoot only 36% in the second half. Speaking again to how that defense kind of locked things down, I thought they did a good job. Again, But to your point, they did what they didn't overreact necessarily. They just played their game and trusted it. It kind of reminded me of a college football game. You see this all the time where like the number 3 team in the nation will play like this unranked, nobody ever heard of us school, and it'll be like the first quarter, and you're like, why is Alabama tied with like Weber State football team like after a quarter? And then all of a sudden you look again and it's 43-6, and you're like, oh, okay. That's sort of what happens. Right. Yeah. And that's what it kind of felt like in this one. Not to say that the Heat are like, prime Alabama, but they are a better team. They are a superior team at home. Second night of back-to-back. You mentioned no Jaime. Also no Tyler Herro, who was dressed, strangely enough. Eric Spoelstra talking about it pregame. Sounds like that return could be coming soon. They're going on a 4-game road trip here. So, it was nice to get this win against New Orleans. Tyler Herro will be traveling with the team, so shoehorning in a little Tyler Herro health update there. But
does he make his debut on the 4-game road trip? Because that's typically not how they do things. After a long layoff, they usually welcome them back once they're back at home. Like even they might travel with the team and continue to practice and stuff like that, and do some more drills and more on-court work and stuff like that. But typically it seems like they always bring back a player when they're back at home. So I wonder if he's going to see any action during this 4-game road trip. They wound. The last game of the trip is against Oklahoma City. So does Tyler play there and kind of
can use him?
Yeah.
But at the same time, you're like, do we really want to throw him into that kind of fire? Look, they started Kasparis Yakuchonis in Boston. I don't think that this Heat team is necessarily worried about what the schedule is. I think once Tyler Herro, once they feel comfortable that he's right, they'll play him. And they wouldn't be, even though Spo was downplaying it in pregame, they wouldn't be bringing Tyler Herro on the road trip if they didn't think, at this stage, if they didn't think that there is a possibility of him potentially playing. But he was also on the last trip, right? And he didn't play, and then didn't play during this homestand. So I do believe them when they say it's day to day. But like I said, I don't think they would take him if they didn't think it was a possibility that he could play. And there are some challenging teams, and they're the kind of team that looks at the schedule and they're like, if we want to win any of these games, we might need Tyler Herro in these games. Last point on the defense. I did think they made a minor correction in the second half where they were pretty much going under on every screen.
Right.
And even if that allowed Trey Murphy to get hot or something like that, they didn't overreact to that stuff. They just said, you know what? We trust our talent. We trust our offense. They're not going to be able to outshoot us. We got to go on. As long as we take away the basket, they can't outshoot us. They will not outscore us no matter who gets hot on this team. And they were right. And I thought it was a really great adjustment by Spo.
Yeah, I don't know that I noticed it as much, but look, they're going to give up 3-pointers. That's just the nature of today's league. But I think they were happy with the way that they were defending up to that point. I think a lot of those 3-pointers were kind of late shot clock attempts as well. So it was like they were defending them well, and then they put up those 3-point shots, knowing that you know what, they're still keeping their field goal attempts down pretty well. And I think what are you going to say? Like Miami's defense just did barely enough, but it felt like they were never really worried about the Pelicans. I don't know that they were necessarily playing with them to that same degree, because I think they ramped up their defense, particularly in the second half, but I don't think they were concerned about anybody beating them. And maybe that's just a vibe you get off a Pelicans team like this that kind of they've definitely thrown in the towel on the season. It doesn't feel like they're playing for anything. Obviously, they fired their coach earlier in the season. They've got some injury concerns as well, and you can't really get any kind of clear identity from this Pelicans group. And I don't know that the Heat were ever particularly concerned about their opponent at any point in time. I think they were just trying to do what they do well and focus on their strengths more than the Pelicans actually trying to be able to beat them.
Norm Powell, 34 points tonight. He's averaging 24.4 points per game. It's the highest. It would be the highest if the Heat finished the season this way, or if he finished the season this way. It would be the highest a Heat player has averaged in a season since LeBron James in 2014, surpassing Tyler Herro's season last year. Now, there's a lot of basketball to go. There's a lot more Locked On Heat to go. We'll talk more about Norm Powell when we get to credit cookies after this.
Today's episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. Whether you're starting a new routine or jumping into player projections for the first time, trying something new can feel like a challenge. But with Prize Picks, it always feels good to be right. With high-pressure football matchups every weekend and elite hoops action almost every night, the action never slows down, and Prize Picks lets you stay in control. Prize Picks is the daily fantasy app that makes watching sports even more exciting by letting you build lineups based on player projections. No drafts, No waiting. Just pick more or less and play your way. Getting started on Prize Picks is quick and simple. The app is super easy to navigate. It's made watching games even more exciting, especially when following individual player performances. And you'll love the flexibility with options like Flex Play, where you can still get paid even if one pick misses. And the new early payouts feature is a game changer. If a player starts hot, you can cash out before the game ends. Norm Powell, always a good player early in the first quarter, might be a good time to hit that over or under there. Download the Prize Picks app today and use the code LOCKEDONNBA to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONNBA to get $50 in lineups after your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, it's good to be right. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to Locked On Heat. Thanks for making us your first listen of the day. Thank you for making the Locked On Podcast Network the #1 sports podcast network. You already live your team every day. Now take it up a level and go ad-free. Join the Everydayer Club today and get Locked On Heat with no interruptions, members-only Discord access, and more, all for just $5 a month or for $50 a year. Go to lockedonheat.supercast.com or check the link in the show notes to learn more.
Cookie guy, cookie guy, cookie guy, cookie guy. Stack them high like a cookie chain. Sharing with friends, spreading the fame.
As always, we've got 10 of them to give out. Where do you want to begin?
I think we had to start with Norm. Like, to me, that's the story of the game. Watching Norm play that way, continues to just be so confident in his shot making ability. 9 of 12, a new career high in made 3-pointers, and he was absolutely sensational. He continues to be Miami's best player by a pretty wide margin, I think. And he finished with 34 points, 11 of 15 from the floor. So fantastic shooting night, but also chipped in 4 rebounds, 3 assists, and a steal. Finished a plus 23 out on the floor tonight. And just seeing the way he carries the offense when you're not really sure what else is going to work, especially on a night when Jaime isn't able to provide that kind of added boost off the bench. I went ahead and gave Powell 6 credit cookies. Maybe that's a little too much, but I feel like he just did everything.
Throwing flames all night, man. Like 6 is the minimum.
Yeah.
I want to underscore something that you said there when you were going through the box score. He took 15 shots. 12 of them were threes. And I am so okay with that when a guy is just letting it rain. 9 of 12 from 3-point range. He couldn't miss, man. When he missed, it felt strange. It felt like it was a glitch, right?
Right.
And when he is shooting it like that, and not only doing that, but also drawing free throws. Like, how many times is this guy going to get a big switched on him? That big plays up every time this happens. And Norm Powell, I think the broadcast had this stat maybe a couple games ago, and I don't know what it is currently, but he's got to be near the top of the league in drawing fouls on 3-point attempts. It's got to be him. It's got to be Harden. It's got to be like Steph always obviously is up there, but every time a big comes up and tries to check him, he's going to get him with a little bit of a fake and a shoulder lean, and he's going to draw that foul. And I'm totally here for it, man. Like, in today's NBA, you can turn these 3-point plays into 4-point plays even better, man. Like, as much points on the board as you possibly can. The game was great.
Yeah.
But it's
9 of 12 from 3-point range, and then 2 of 3 and everything else. So, like, when you're feeling it that way. Yeah.
The Heat have not had a guy. This is kind of what I've wanted from Tyler Herro, is just like, hey, if you're feeling it from 3, stop messing around with the rest of the court. Just let it go. And with Powell's quick release and that quick decision making, it's really interesting to have a player like this. You know, it's not Steph Curry, it's not Klay Thompson, right? Like, that's not who Norm Powell is. But tonight he was. And it is cool to see a player kind of get into that zone for a night and lead your offense in that way. Finish this sentence, David. Norm Powell is the best offensive player to wear a Heat jersey since blank.
Damn. Playoff Jimmy Butler?
Okay. Yeah. I mean, look, if you wanted to put Herro all-star campaign last year, the way that he was scoring at all 3 levels and getting the free throw line, Powell's doing better, right?
Yeah.
Playoff Jimmy Butler for like the first round and a half of the 2023 run. Like, Powell's sample size is better so far than that. Before Josh Hart slid into
Jimmy
Butler.
Jimmy was capable of those greater heights. And maybe that was just the way that team was kind of built around
I mean, he
being
was.
able to
Jimmy
produce
Butler is
those
capable of being Michael Jordan on any given night. It's a little bit different than what Norm Powell's doing.
historically better. But yeah, in terms of regular season basketball, uh, I don't maybe like since LeBron then. To be
Yeah,
honest with
right?
you. Yeah,
That's kind of where I'm going.
yeah, no, because since then, like you had older Dwayne Wade, Chris Bosh,
Mhm.
they were aging at that point. Chris only playing a couple half seasons before he was forced into retirement, and yet he had big moments in big games. But
Bosh could have been
still,
the answer to this, but unfortunately, his career took the turn it did.
yeah. So just to see him doing this consistently and to put up the shots the way he does, it just I think everybody is still kind of like unsure. I get the feeling that Heat fans are kind of still not sure what to make of this Norm Powell guy because they didn't see him for the bulk of his career. And, he wasn't much ballyhooed when he joined the team and he was acquired this offseason and he's put up this big numbers. And I mean, the offense has sputtered at times, but he was mostly out of the lineup. And he's, I think, been very consistent and putting up some really big numbers, and the flow and the way he takes those, the quick releases you mentioned, all these things just make him, I think, the best offensive player we've had in over a decade.
Well, and to your point too, like we just don't see players peak at 31, 32 years
yeah.
old in the way that Norm Powell had. I still am struggling to find the comparison there for Powell, but it's sustainable. I mean, he's been doing this for now a season and a half, right?
Really?
Almost a season and a quarter-ish plus. So this is who Norm Powell is as a scorer, right? This is like he was shooting 40% from 3 last year for the Clippers and getting downhill and doing all of these things. He's always been a monster in transition. That's always been his game, right? It's always been better and better offensively. The three-point shot has steadily gotten better and better, and it's real, man. I don't know how you watch this guy take threes and not believe like that is a legitimate three-point shooter. And when him and Herro are back on the court together, what they can do from a spacing tandem, to me, is just really interesting, and it's what I'm still just like really interested in. Anyway, Norm Powell, 6 credit cookies. Congrats to him. Back in on the game. Who's next?
I've got 2 for Nikola Jovic. I think a great bounce back game for him, and he looked really, I think, very confident. Like we talked about him in the Denver game, and the way he just continues to build, just putting up these kind of numbers after missing so much of the season and injury, and then kind of being in the doghouse and not really knowing what his role is. And I don't know what to make of this kind of Nico. I don't know what to call it, like the 6th phase in his season development, because it's so atypical. Like either a player kind of builds and builds steadily, and I know there's going to be off nights and stuff like that, but for Nico to play this well, 19 points, 7 of 16 from the floor, 6 rebounds, 3 assists, 3 steals, 2 blocks, like he was a monster out there. Like there were moments there where he was just like, oh, this is Nico potential all-star Jovic. Like, I mean, he was just playing that well. The confidence on the three-point shot is there. Unfortunately, he was only 2 of 8, but it's still the willingness to do that and then still not get into his head as he has in the past. So you can tell that he's obviously growing and feeling a lot more confident. I know he spoke recently, and this quote just kind of seems to, I think for me, just is still an important one. The way he talks about having a more business-like approach to the season and recognizing, he's just going to remove himself a little bit and not necessarily just look at it as a game. It's about the job. It's about doing the work. It's about having that kind of mentality where you don't get beat up because you're just doing the work and you do what's necessary to win. And I think it's paid off for him. Like he's making strides in that regard. And so to me, the kind of performance he had, I gave him 2 credit cookies, and I think it's well deserved.
He's developed a mental toughness, and that to me is the biggest difference in his game. It's not necessarily like we knew that Nico can grab a defensive rebound and push the break. We knew that he was a talented passer at his position. We knew that he could shoot the 3-ball streakily, but well when he's kind of streaking in the right direction.
Yeah.
It's the mental toughness to keep doing things and to keep taking shots and to keep doing. But he comes out, scores 11 points in like 130 seconds.
Yeah.
Just this crazy eruption off the bench all of a sudden. And it was one of those things that he does it. The Pelicans are still kind of hanging in there. But it felt like it was just Powell and Nico for so much of the offense in the beginning. And I was kind of sitting there like a little worried. I was like, well, if one of these guys cools off, we're kind of screwed here. But then, like I said, the rest of the defense tightened up and these other guys started contributing. More guys, I'm sure, that we'll talk about in credit cookies. But my favorite play from Nico, I think, was at the end of the first quarter where the Heat get into a half-court set. They're kind of just swinging the ball around. I think all like 4 or 5 guys touched the ball. It might have been all 5 guys. And the ball swings back to Nico. Nico's on the right wing. The ball goes to the corner. I think to Pelle. Pelle swings it back to Nico on the right wing. I could be wrong if that was Pelle or not. But Nico sees the mismatch in front of him. I think it's Jordan Poole.
Oh, yeah. Texted you about that.
Yeah. And just attacks him. No, and he basically did the thing. He said, nobody else is doing anything. I'm going to go out there and do something. And you know my favorite trait, David. Do stuff. And Nico in that moment did stuff. And I thought it was a really well timed and a good read by him offensively. And it was exactly what this Heat offense needs. And I'm sure it's what the coaching staff wanted to see from him. Let's just do the numbers on the rest of the credit cookies since
it's only 2 more. I've got to give them both to Pelle Larsson, to be honest with you. I think he was sensational in tonight's game. Really picked up his scoring in the second half as well. Finished with 16 points. Also chipped in 6 assists, so a big playmaking night for him. Finished with 3 steals, so doing the work defensively as well. He's just been a really solid contributor. No longer in the starting lineup, but it hasn't changed his impact or taken away from what he does. So he gets the last 2 credit cookies. But a shout out to Davion Mitchell, who I think was really solid, and Kel'el Ware, who was also pretty solid, especially on the defensive end. Only finished with 16 points, but was really good overall, especially with his 12 rebounds.
Bam was also a plus 23 in this game. Still no credit cookies for him. And with this, Pelle Larsson has officially surpassed Bam Adebayo in total credit cookies for the season. I know it's not been Bam's best year. I don't want to do the Bam apologist, Bam defending thing, but to have fewer credit cookies than Pelle Larsson so far, I think we might have to take this up to a committee, David.
No way, man. The committee has spoken. That's
the committee has spoken, and you are the committee. It's you and some guy named Jose from Kendall, or it's a committee, and that's it.
It's an indictment. No, Jose from Kendall doesn't want him to. He wants to take credit cookies back. He wants to send them to Vicky's Bakery or something like that. Yeah, I'm sorry, that's not. He's not happy with Bam's performance this season. But yeah,
question about Bam.
Oh well, I can't wait to answer it in our next segment. Today's episode is brought to you by Quo. New year, new systems. And this is the time when a lot of us look at the messier parts of how we run our businesses and think, there's just got to be a better way. And there is. Streamlining your communications is one of the quickest upgrades you can make. And that's why today's episode is brought to you by Quo, spelled Q-U-O, the smarter way to run your business communications. Because when your team is reachable, organized, and communicating in one place, you're not just working cleaner, you're creating more opportunities to connect with your customers. Your whole team can call and text from one shared business number. Nothing gets missed. Everyone sees the full conversation thread, which makes replies faster and much more personal. It works right from your phone or your computer, and you can even keep your existing number. And Quo's smart AI tools automatically log calls, summarize conversations, and highlight next steps, so details never slip through the cracks. It's no surprise, Quo is the #1 rated business phone system on G2, trusted by more than 90,000 businesses, from solo operators to growing teams, and yours could be next. Make this the year where no opportunity and no customer slips away. Try Quo for free, plus 20% off your first 6 months when you go to quo.com/LockedOnNBA. That's QUO.com/LockedOnNBA. Quo, no missed calls, no missed customers. We'll be right back.
All right, let's go to the text line. You can get text from us and submit questions to the post-game show with the link in the show notes, or text 786-998-7029. This question comes from Billy, who writes in. Pelicans have to be low on Zion. As much as I want Giannis, if you could get Zion and keep as much of this team together as possible, would that be a more realistic move? ? David, I think it has to be considered the more realistic move, only because the reporting around Milwaukee right now is that the Bucks are still not interested in trading Giannis, that they're trying to buy before the deadline. But I don't know. It does feel like everybody just assumes and anticipates that eventually Giannis will be out. But that could be something that takes place in the offseason. Zion could also take place in the offseason. But it does, I don't know. Watching this game, maybe we should start here. It did feel that even though Zion is back in the starting lineup, that this Pelicans team is kind of post Zion in their style of play and the guys who are getting touches. It feels very much like a Derek Queen team now.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, he only played 20-something minutes, so maybe he was on a minutes restriction. But still, It just it doesn't seem like they're counting on him anymore because you never know when he's going to be out there, and he's not the singular force that say a Kawhi Leonard is. Like even though he's a guy who's in and out of the lineup, you know that once he does play and he's fully engaged, he's as good a player as you get in the NBA, a top 5 player on any given night. Zion, I don't think is at that point, and so he's definitely, I think, the more realistic option. But I also struggle to see how Miami would incorporate him and where. Like, what are you going to do? Like, let's put aside even what you'd have to trade to give up for Zion. Where does he fit in? Are you
Well, I
gonna
think
put
that
him in
is the
starting lineup?
conversation. I think the conversation is of all the things that you'd have to give up for Giannis, which would almost assuredly include Kel'el Ware, plus
Mhm.
probably a Tyler Hero contract, another big contract, whether that's Wiggins or if they're interested in just taking the Rozier contract off of Miami's hands and having that as an expiring draft picks, all of the draft picks that he'd have, that'll all be in there.
Yeah.
It won't cost that to go get Zion. So to your point, like if you could have Zion and keep Kel'el Ware with the way that this guy is developing, it sounds crazy to say I choose Zion over Giannis, but when you take everything in the aggregate and say, well, would you take Zion on a low versus give up everything for Giannis? And yeah, maybe you keep Powell, maybe you keep Bam, and it's Powell, Bam, and Giannis. That to me is really interesting. Is that better though than having most of your stuff if you're just kind of doing the Pelicans a favor and taking Zion off their hands, which I don't know if they view it as that, but it would certainly cost a lot less than Giannis.
Yeah, I guess it is the smarter deal. But I don't know that it makes this team necessarily better. Like I think part of it is considering what you'd have to give up, and then the other part is what Zion's role is going to be. Like I guess if you answer the first question, do you keep Ware? And I think that's the big part. Do you keep Ware? And I think given Queen's evolution, I think it's likely that there maybe Ware isn't as important for their
Well, and
development.
you don't trade Ware for Zion. So if you don't get to keep Ware, then you're not trading for Zion. If you're the Heat, you're just like, okay, cool, no thanks.
Okay. So if that's the case, then your front court is set. And so are you going to put Zion off the bench? Is he going to accept that role in Miami? Is he going to be a super bench player playing alongside Jaime?
He's kind of stepping on Jaime
Yes,
in
but
that
at the
role.
same time, I love the idea of Jaime Highway, and then all of a sudden the Williamson
Zion.
Mack truck, yeah, blasting
18-wheeler,
through.
yeah.
Yeah, that would be phenomenal. So, I mean, that bench would be even better, and in a way, it would kind of, I guess, it would be a move of a consolidation trade also, where you'd have to probably jettison a couple players off the bench. I don't know who those would be, but it's an interesting
Could you
proposition.
play Bam? Could you play Ware, Bam, and Zion now that Bam and Ware shoot threes?
Mm, I think I mean, instead of Wiggs, I imagine in the
Yeah, you
trade
probably
like
take
that.
either Wiggs is in the trade or on the bench or whatever. I mean, they kind of Pelicans right now start now. Not saying that the Heat should follow the Pelicans way, right? Because we've seen where that got them, but they basically kind of do that. They have Trey Murphy, who's the same size as Wiggs, playing the 2 right now because they have a smaller guard and Fears starting at point guard.
Yeah,
I don't know. It's interesting. I to your point, I don't know that it's a good question, and it's something you would have to at least ask in the meeting when you're maybe attempting to trade for Zion.
yeah.
But it's not at the top of my priority list. That to me is more of a, does he fit what we want to do? Do we think we can maximize this guy? And do we think we can get him? Maybe reaching the ceiling that we thought about Zion when he was drafted. That's over, right? I think that's safe to say. But what could we unlock in Zion? What kind of player could we turn this guy into a multiple-time All-Star? Is he an offensive force that as great as Powell is, could he be a 28-point per game scorer for us with how efficient that guy can be and how dominant he can be when he's right? I think those are the more interesting questions, and only the Heat can answer their own opinion on that. Let's move on. Next question comes from Malachi, who writes in, we need to have a conversation about my favorite Heat player, Bam. Why is his offense so down the last month or so? I'm running out of excuses. David?
I think injury is a part of it. I think these are also pretty typical lulls that he does have over the course of every season. And I think the offense just needed him less. And I think the way that the offense has shifted a little bit, he's still finding his place. Like we saw it at the start of last year, where they had implemented a newish type offense that didn't really work and was kind of amorphous and not clearly defined, as well defined as this season's offense has been. And he looked uncomfortable. And then towards the second half of the season, he was putting up all NBA type numbers on offense. So maybe he's doing something similar, but I think there is a combination of things that are working against him, and he just hasn't been able to round into form. But as you've pointed out a number of times, and I think it's worth repeating, like he's still doing a lot of other things well. Like his numbers out there reflect he's making a great positive impact. He's playing in starting lineups. He allows and unlocks everybody's ability to do everything else as well as they can, and in a way that makes him incredibly useful. Like you can't count on him to produce enough to beat another team, but without him, you're not going to win because he's that good. And so I think that's something to take into consideration. And you just hope that he can figure it out at some point, because I think that's an even better step. Like if he can do all those other things and score better and still have the kind of great supporting cast that he has right now. I wouldn't even call him a supporting cast because it feels like everybody's a supporting cast member at this point. But to have everybody play at a high level, that just means this team is capable of being even more dangerous. And so that's something to look forward to, is that if he does figure it out at some point this season, and you hope that he does because he has in the past, then maybe there's another even better version of this group waiting to happen.
He's not found his spot in this offense yet.
Yeah, he's uncomfortable.
And when he's playing well, it's not a coincidence that, when Bam has the good offensive games, those are the games where the three ball is going in. Because that's the only spot that he's been able to find consistently, spacing the floor. When he's open, he shoots it. And he's open a lot because defenses still don't close out on him. It is not a coincidence that since the start of that losing streak that Miami had at the beginning of December, so after that 140-point win over the Clippers on December 1st, since then, coming into this game, Bam had missed 27 of 34 three-point attempts, and then he was 1 of 3 tonight. When the three ball doesn't go in, he does not score a lot of points. It's that simple. Now, you could blame that partially on the offense, right? You say, well, they don't want to do the mid-range stuff. That's kind of Bam's bread and butter. And they're not setting screens, so his pick and roll stuff is gone. So he's not as much of a lob threat. He's not getting it on the roll or on the move as much as he used to. And the dribble handoff stuff that defined the beginning of his career, at least as a starter, all that's been gone. Like that's been removed from the offense for a couple of years now. So every time Bam has developed a new bread and butter spot, the Heat have gotten rid of it. So you can blame the offense. You can also blame Bam and say, well, Jaime figured out how to work in this offense. Pelle Larsson is figuring out how to work in this offense. Why can't you? And that comes down to the thing that I've always said about Bam. If I have a criticism about Bam on offense, it's that he needs to develop a handle. As much as we used to make fun of Jaylen Brown for only being able to go left, Bam can't even really do that. He needs to develop a handle. He does. And the broadcast will always point out, Bam has the speed advantage over XYZ guy, whatever it is.
Doesn't make a difference.
Doesn't do you. Yeah, unless you're running without the ball, which doesn't really help you.
Right.
You need to be able to get by your defender with a handle, and he just doesn't have those dribble moves. So he needs to develop a dribble package, and that's the next thing for Bam if they're going to stick with this offense, which, it's working for everybody else. So you'd hope that maybe that comes along. We got to go quick. Last two. Jonah writes in, is being 2-6 without Pelle Larsson a quote-unquote real stat? I had my skepticism before, but he really is just a difference maker. I don't care about the record. I don't know if it's a real stat or not. It's an 8-game sample. It's impossible to know. He really is a difference maker, though. Pelle's he's a very good basketball player. And tonight, where the Heat were without Jaime Jaquez Jr., he stepped in and played that Jaime role of the hustle stuff, but more importantly, getting downhill and setting guys up with those 6 assists. He filled that Jaime spot in a way that surprised me, quite frankly. And I've been as high on Pelle Larsson as anybody else.
Yeah, you did say at the beginning of the season that he was going to be an impact player, and I didn't see how he was going to find a role in this offense or defense, to be honest with you. But he has emerged as a legitimate. I think we made this point before, but if not, it's just something I've been thinking about. He is a true connector on both sides of the ball. Like he is such an important player, but what they do offensively and defensively, he can fill so many gaps because he can guard smaller perimeter players. He can switch on to bigs if it's necessary. He can do a lot of little things, and he uses his physicality and his IQ to anticipate and make smart plays. And what he does is just like you said, make an impact. And he absolutely is a player that you want out there. The fact that he's getting the bulk of these minutes as a second-round player that normally wouldn't even sniff the court. Like second-round players have some value around the league, but rarely do they get this kind of playing time. We saw it last year as a rookie, and we continue to see his development over the offseason. And now he's a much better player than I think anyone was really expected him to be.
1 of 5 from 3-point range. You still want to, like, that's the next step if you're looking for him. But if that 3 is even 30, if he gets to 35, 36%, just sort of average, I mean, that even going from where he is, that's a huge difference maker in his overall game. And that could force some really interesting conversations. Let's just put it there. Last one. Joshua writes in, can we do a Tyler Herro for Trey Murphy swap right now? The Pelicans are in town. No, Pelicans will probably want to see if Tyler Herro is healthy before they entertain that. But they also have Jordan Poole and Jeremiah Fears that they're trying to get minutes for. So I don't think that the Pelicans are all that interested in that.
Is there a team that even really needs a Tyler Herro at this point? Like high-scoring wing-ish type player? I don't know.
Sure. I think so.
Really?
Yeah. I think Milwaukee would love to have him.
They got Gary Trent Jr. They don't really need Tyler Herro. Oh, you're making a joke. Milwaukee would love to have him? Okay.
No matter what they have to trade. No matter what they would have to trade.
I mean, if they want to trade Giannis for Tyler Herro, I could see why that would work.
Threes are worth more than twos last time I checked. That'll do it for us today. Thanks so much for making Locked On Heat your first listen every day, especially to start your week on a Monday. We'll be right back here tomorrow.